Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Quantum Recovery Podcast. I have Amanda Monjure back today. I am going to introduce her. The reason she's back on the podcast is because we are going to be talking about quantum principles and practices and how they are going to be applied and can be applied to recovery. And we're going to be talking about mainly here 12 steps, but I'm going to introduce all of that in a second. But first, if you are new to Amanda, welcome.
Thank you for having me back.
Absolutely. Amanda is an energy healer, mindset coach, and a licensed massage therapist. She's trained in emotion code, body code, and belief code. And she's the owner of Radiant Life Healing in Mandeville, Louisiana. She uses frequency healing techniques in conjunction with her energy work, and this facilitates powerful transformation in her clients, both physically and emotionally. She's also in recovery, and today we're going to be talking about recovery and all the things and how it relates to quantum science. So, with that said, I want to just say, everyone, that you all know a little bit of my story. I did not get a formal treatment, and I didn't know about the rooms of recovery until I was about 7 years into not using. So I also had resentment around the word God and things like this. So I when I first heard somebody's story, they were actually, they came from the rooms of AA and NA, and I was in tears, and I went up to that person and I was like, please take me to these meetings, because I didn't know that there were other people like me. And so I didn't really know about the steps before that, but I wasn't a huge fan that they used the word God, but I really, really, really quickly found out that we can use a God of our own understanding. We don't need to be attached to that word. In fact, it really saddens me when a word, any word, prevents us from our healing process and takes us away from what we want, and that is healing. And there are many, many different recovery programs, and basically all of the recovery programs offer the same principles. So whether you're talking about well-briety, atheist agnostic, refuge recovery, or Dharma recovery, Buddhist in the 12 steps, it doesn't matter. All of the programs are going to have some foundational principles. So we're going to be marrying those principles of recovery and the steps and from the traditional steps. And the reason for that is because it is evidence-based. We know it works. This is what has worked for the longest time. And many of these other programs are actually based off of the 12 steps. So that's just a little history. I'm a huge fan of 12 steps and its role it's played in my life in so many ways. And I know that you are too, Amanda.
I am.
So today we're gonna cover steps 1 through 3, and we're gonna do future episodes on the rest of the steps. So today, that's what we're talking about, everybody. So what are your thoughts when it comes to quantum and 12 steps? Just,
So many.
I know, I'm so excited to hear what
Okay.
your thoughts.
Well, I can only speak for my experience. I got sober, old school, in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. So I'm going to speak from that standpoint. I've never experienced a treatment center or anything like that. But anyway,
Mhm.
so I want to just touch a little bit about, what you just spoke on about how you had a resentment towards the word God. Now, our subconscious mind doesn't understand English or Spanish or a specific language. It only speaks in frequency and energy. So you can put whatever word there that works for you. It could be source, it could be God, it can be nature, it can be magic, it can be whatever works for you. The point is to take the label away and open your mind and exert the willingness to adopt new ideas so that you can create new ways of thinking for yourself. So that being said, let's dive into the 12 steps, because the 12 steps that of Alcoholics Anonymous, which are applied in Gambling Anonymous or Overeaters Anonymous, it's a universal truth, right? This method of transformation. We're going to cover today steps 1, 2, and 3. And then at a later date, we'll dive into the action steps and then the maintenance steps. So I guess we start at the top,
Yeah.
right? We made a turning point.
Yes.
Or yeah, step 1. We admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives had become unmanageable. Now, this in later recovery, for me personally, now I look at this step as I admitted I was powerless over destructive thinking and my life had become unmanageable, or I admitted I was powerless over sugar.
Yeah. Caffeine recently.
Yeah. Yeah. So, when it comes to the step 1, for me, I truly had to get to that place where I was willing to be honest with myself. And we all have to hit that rock bottom, right? Pain is the great motivator. And so, like, can we just clarify, like, what type of audience are we speaking to? Are we speaking to people who are curious about recovery? Are we speaking to people who are in recovery and they just want to do it the quantum way? I guess I want a little bit more clarity on who is it. Am I speaking like I'm sharing my story in the rooms here?
Well, there always is a little bit of story share
Yeah.
in the conversation for sure.
Well,
But
my
yeah,
experience, strength, and hope, I guess. We're just sharing our experience, strength, and hope, correct?
and the people who listen to this podcast are in recovery, or they are family members of people in recovery. They're either in, that early recovery stage, or they're in long-term recovery. But that's who I speak to when I'm on this
Okay.
podcast.
Okay. All right. So I gonna refer to notes that I have taken on this since I started implementing quantum theory into my recovery, which has completely changed how I move in the world. Okay. I've been sober before, where my sobriety was kind of lackluster, right? And it left me vulnerable to multiple relapses in my history. So once I was able to pinpoint exactly what was happening in my body with reference to my thoughts and how I was feeling in my body and my ability to really thrive in recovery, it was life-changing. So that's I'm losing my train of thought here.
No, you're good.
All right, we can edit that out. Now you've worked the steps once? Okay. Okay, just one
And
time.
of course I've taught them and the principles in throughout a lot of different kind of lessons that I've basically used the modality of 12-step facilitation as a counselor.
Mhm.
And so I'm very familiar with
When you are at step 1 with one of your clients, or when I'm at step 1 with one of my sponsees, tell me about your process when you are explaining step 1 to somebody that you're assisting through recovery.
I love to keep it simple and focusing on the principle. So the principle behind step 1 is honesty. If we don't get honest with ourselves, we're not going to be able to really move on to the next stuff. We really have to get honest. So it's about being vulnerable and kind of breaking open and being able to also trust and have
Honest about what though?
honest about that unmanageability, honest about where we have lost control, and also what we don't have control over anymore.
For me, I had to get honest about powerlessness.
And
Yeah.
yes, unmanageability and powerlessness are the two huge pieces here.
Yeah.
And we must get honest about those two things in order
Right.
to move to the next step.
Right. So if our problem is lack of power, then our solution is power, right? And we already know that throughout our process of trying to get sober, we didn't have the power because our self-will, no matter how much knowledge we had about our problem, we could not stop the obsessive use of the substance that we were addicted to. So where do we find this power,
Yes, where
right?
do we find
Where do
yes,
we find the power?
yeah, where
Where
do
does
we
that come from? Which walks us right into step 2, right? So we came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. Who wants to admit that we don't have enough power in for ourselves
So many
to get
people
ourselves better?
word powerlessness, just that word.
Right.
And it's actually a thing that we are powerless over, but we have the ability, and it, like the steps in general, I feel are very empowering.
Oh,
Like
absolutely.
they empower us. And so, and the principle behind step two is hope. Like
Hmm.
instilling that hope in ourselves, and knowing that, and believing that there's some power greater than ourselves. We don't have to label it. Just knowing that is going to go a lot farther than we think.
So let's talk
And
about
this
your
also speaks
experience
to
that you had.
manifestation too,
What was
actually.
that?
Speaks to manifestation too. Like the quantum ideas and principles that we're bringing in here. The steps also speak to universal law, and whether you believe in universal law or not, it's true. I always use the law of gravity. Like whether you believe gravity exists or not, it's real. And
Right.
yeah, cut you off.
No, I was just, curious, like I too, when I first came into the program, I had a block about all of the heavy male reference in the book. I had to believe in God all of a sudden, which I do believe in a God of my understanding. But I think when it comes to really opening up your mind to experience hope, which, if we can start to maybe reference the levels of consciousness chart by Dr. David R. Hawkins and the frequency of emotions here, when we are resonating at a frequency of resentment or fear or guilt, pride, all those things. It's pride that will prevent us from opening up our minds and considering the fact that there is a power greater than ourselves out there that can restore us to sanity.
Mhm.
This is in the beginning for me, it was all about exerting my personal will in a way where I had to surrender. So it's like an oxymoron in a way. It's like I was told that my human will was not enough. But in order for me to get better, I had to exert my will to let go. I had to exert my will to open up the space and contemplate a way of thinking that I had absolutely no reference point to. It's this in the quantum space refer this to as the unknown, right? Like whenever we're faced with
And
something that
anxiety.
we're with the unknown, my thoughts and the way that I have gone through life so far wasn't working, but I was filled with fear, so I couldn't get past that fear of the unknown. And for me in the beginning, God represented that unknown, or God represented what my family imposed upon me, what God was. And all of those things are wrapped up in finite thinking, our conscious mind, right? So if we're only using at most 5% of our conscious mind,
Mhm.
why would I allow fear of the unknown get in the way of my ability to consider a new way of life if I have the knowledge that I'm only using 5%? Right. It's like, why would I make a judgment call based off of only 5% of the knowledge that I have available to me? So every time we toy with the idea that maybe there is something greater, a higher power, we begin the process of rewiring our brain because we get more and more comfortable. It's like doing a rep. You're making that muscle a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger, a little bit stronger. And the more you practice being willing to be open-minded, to have faith that there is a life out there that's better for you, the higher chance you have of getting sober and staying sober. If, I mean, this is a recovery podcast, so yeah, we're going to talk about whether or not we're sober or we're not sober.
Yeah. Well, and you
Yeah.
just explained the how of the program so beautifully. Being honest, open, and willing. Like that's what
Yes.
it is.
Yeah. Open. And how hard is it to be open when you immediately hear the word God, and what happens to your nervous system to a lot of people?
Yeah.
They shut down, right? So it is in that space where we shut down. That's where our work lies. All right. What are you doing when you shut down?
Well, I
Your
know for
ears
me,
are closed, your eyes are closed. Yeah. Your heart
I
is
run
closed,
away
right?
when I shut down.
Yeah. Yeah. So every time we go to a meeting, every time we pick up the book, read the book,
Mhm.
every time we decide we're going to exert our will into a space of surrendering to something that we're not familiar with, every time you call your sponsor, every time you reach out for help, when you're in that shutdown space where you got the swirling thoughts and the negative energy flowing through your body, that's when you pick up the phone and you call a recovery friend, you call your sponsor. Those are all ways that we are in fact rewiring our brains for restoration. Yeah.
And I want to speak to that because it's not easy to do, to pick up that 1,000-pound phone. And many people don't. They'll sit in their shame spiral. Now, I'm very familiar with exactly how my body feels and the things that I do when my feelings are overwhelming and I'm in that like fight or flight, basically. And that's actually a signal for me now because I've strengthened that muscle over time to talk to somebody, to call somebody. Like I know that it's dangerous for me to just stay in that state.
We have done this for each other.
Yes.
Yeah. We have done that for each other. And the one thing that gets in the way a lot of times is pride.
Oh, 100%. And I
Yeah.
feel like that was more, yeah, where I've seen it, because it wasn't my experience, but where I've seen this with people that I've helped over the years is in that early stage. Like, I hate saying this, but like people sometimes they have to return to a use in order to understand, like, okay, that I should, if I would have called someone, then that would have happened. But we have to learn that. Like, I can't remember how many times I relapsed, but when I was relapsing and returning to use, or whatever term people want to use, I didn't know the rooms of recovery, and I didn't know the word recovery, and then, I didn't know what I didn't know. So I had to have a significant precipitating event, which was a friend dying, in order to be like,
Wake
okay,
up.
I'm done now. I'm done now. I'm ready,
Yeah.
So yeah, and everyone will have
Have their own. Yeah.
a point, right?
That's why, it's a game of Russian roulette, really. Because
Yes,
sometimes
life
you
and
never
death.
know if you're gonna come back from that relapse.
Yeah. And to be honest, some people don't have a relapse in them. And that
Yeah.
might be for health reasons, and it might be because of the specific drug of no choice that they're using. It will, yeah, there's lots of variables and factors of why it might be the last time, and people usually, like, sometimes they know,
Yeah.
sometimes, and sometimes you don't. But yes, it's scary. It is Russian roulette because this is a life and death disease. It's very, very scary.
Yep. So let's talk about courage. Because courage is at that neutral place
Explain
on the
why it's neutral for people.
let me see if I can even grab my chart if it'll fit
Okay.
in the frame here. Hell, it's my favorite thing to pull out for people.
Yes, I can see it.
All right, so yeah, so this is the chart Themes of Consciousness developed by Dr. David R. Hawkins with it from the book Maps of Human Consciousness and also Letting Go the Pathway Through Surrender. So we see all of these contracted emotions down here below courage. Courage resonates at 200 on this scale. Any emotional frequency that resonates below 200 is considered a trapped or is considered a negative energy or contracted or whatever you want to call it. So the chart goes from 0 to 1,000, you know, shame being the lowest here. Now, what this chart allows me to do, it's a point of reference for me personally in my recovery, because anytime that I am feeling fear or hopelessness or I don't know if you can see that or not, but anger, pride, right? Anytime I'm feeling all of those things, it gives me the opportunity to become the quantum observer of of myself, of my human experience. Because I know that's not my true nature, right? That's not what I was created to be. I was created to be up here, unconditional love, right? So anytime I'm
Also
feeling all of
remember,
these
it's not
things,
permanent. Those feelings when you're in that low frequency, like that was huge for me. I had to continually remind myself that that feeling was not like if I was in a shame spiral or in a fear cycle or whatever, I had to continually remind myself this is not permanent. And in the
right?
moment, those feelings can be so strong and paralyzing that it feels like they're permanent and then we'll act irrationally.
Accordingly. Yeah, very, very much irrationally. And this is why it's so important for us to understand our nervous systems. And
Yeah.
this is where a lot of the daily habits that I now employ in my life with red light therapy, sunlight, morning sunlight, grounding, drinking structured water, taking methylene blue. There's a bunch of very small little things that I do, breath work, trauma release exercise, all of those things work in conjunction to help me learn what's going on with my nervous system so that when I do end up in a shame spiral or when I do end up in that triggered state where we are designed for our brains to completely shut down and go into fight or flight and start grasping for survival skills, that don't serve us, especially if when we're children, we had to learn to be fiercely independent in order to survive. That's a trauma response.
Yeah.
As an adult, like the survival skills we learned as kids, they don't serve us anymore as adults. So it was very important for me in order to minimize or in order for me to in order for me to not want to pick up a drink,
Right.
right? Simple as that, because that was my immediate fix. That was the medication that I was taking to numb my brain so I didn't have to feel the things. When in reality, we have to feel in order to process. And
Yeah.
we'll touch more on this when we start talking about steps 4, 5, and 6 and 7, right? Because we have to we have to clean out the pipe so that we can align our thoughts with elevated emotions so
Yeah.
that we can have a clear intention, so that we can put a coherent message out into the field of possibilities, the quantum field, so that we can manifest the thing, whatever the thing is. But I'm going to just call the thing joy and happiness, happy, joyous, and free, right? Creativity, even mental clarity. How many of us in early recovery didn't know what the F that felt like? Mental
Well, and a
clarity?
lot of these happier feelings or higher vibration, higher frequency feelings are foreign, and we don't even know how to label them sometimes because we forget or we forgot that what it was like to feel that feeling. Now, I want you to talk about a little bit about the subconscious mind and how this plays a role as like somebody's is going through this process of the steps, because in our subconscious mind there is a software that's playing. So how do we unearth and let go of that old tape that we play over and over that's playing regard like it's not conscious to us.
Well, you know, let's talk about how we're feeling in our bodies because we have a feeling in our bodies, we create a thought about it, and then we've got this never-ending loop that goes on, right? And the intensity of our compulsive thinking, ruminating, destructive thoughts, is in direct proportion to our unwillingness to feel what's going on in our bodies. So we can now, if we want to talk about step 3 a little bit and the subconscious mind with regards to this, because I really believe that it is in our subconscious mind where our we get our inspiration, we get our downloads from spirit, your higher power, God, source, the
Yes.
unknown, the
And
unknown, right?
the unknown and the principle behind step 3 is faith. So we
Mhm.
have to trust the process here. Yeah.
So
Very.
step three is made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God as we understood him, I think, right? Yes.
Yep. You nailed it.
We understood him. So, I have a lot of friends who have various ideas about that we're using the term him and the term God. It upsets them. I don't give a shit either way. I don't care. Like it doesn't bother me. And it doesn't bother me that they need to word it differently either. I don't get hung up on those. I think those are just little things that you can get hung up on. You are looking for an excuse to be offended, basically. And I just don't think it's necessary, especially when we're talking about something life or death,
Yeah.
like alcoholism and addiction.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying at the beginning, how it always saddens me when a word will hang somebody up. And that is actually a sign you're being triggered. And that is telling. Like that
Right.
is actually a good thing. Like knowing that him or whatever word is triggering you, where's that coming from? Like that's something to explore. That's how we unearth the subconscious, actually.
Yes, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
So I have it reworded here just a little bit to apply it to, the quantum theory. Made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the unknown as we understand it, which in the beginning, our only relationship with the unknown is probably one of complete fear. Which,
Exactly.
where's that? That's like, boop, that's way down here,
I love
right?
I love you how you rewrote that. That's amazing. I've never heard anybody say it that way. That's
I
really
think it makes it a little bit more friendly for people who are still trying to figure out what this means for them.
yeah.
Like how do they open up that space in their mind to for possibility, right? We live in a world of infinite possibilities.
Yeah.
I'm a completely different person than I was 10 years ago.
Oh.
And yeah, yeah.
In a
So now with regards to the chart here, step three is, enter the quantum, having faith in things unseen and trusting your intuition. Threshold of trusting in the unknown and a higher power. This is where we can start to experience synchronicities, extraordinary outcomes. And for anybody who has already worked the steps and had that spiritual awakening that is promised to you, they have had miraculous things happen in their lives that have given them a point of reference to keep coming back.
yeah.
Right. So steps one and two are about observation and reflection, right? We're observing our powerlessness. We're taking a look at our lives. We're admitting that it's pretty unmanageable, right? What I've been doing has not been working. And then, it requires acceptance. Where's acceptance? Acceptance is where it's up here.
And it's on page 417 of the big book.
Yeah, that's a good one. So we've got courage, right? So every time we employ courage, we're tapping into that frequency of courage. All of these frequencies are already around us in this frequency soup that we live in.
Possibility.
Infinite possibility, they're everywhere. We just have to clean out all of the lower vibrational emotions and thought patterns and destructive tendencies and all those other things so that we can have the mental clarity to align with the frequency of willingness, right? Willing to think a different way, accepting that there is a power greater than ourselves that can restore us to sanity using reason and logic.
And tapping into self, because that's where it lies.
Right.
It has a house, and all of our human bodies are basically a house for it. And now it's not saying anybody is their own higher power. The higher power is something outside of us, but that energy, we can tap into it anytime we want
It
because
can be the collective.
and it can be the collective.
I did that. And when I first came in the program, I made everybody else in AA my higher power.
Yes.
I made the collective.
Drug use. Sometimes people use God as an acronym.
What was that?
group of druggies.
Oh,
There's a bunch of them. I can't think of it. If I come, I'll try to think of some other ones. But yes, the using the group is huge and
huge.
it's
Yeah,
bigger than you. So
yeah,
yes,
yeah, yeah.
works.
I mean, our people are my jam. Like we've all hit a rock bottom. We are the kind of people that hold ourselves accountable. We have taken responsibility for our lives. For the most part, we do our best to stop making excuses, and
Mhm.
we're all willing to do the work. And whether it is a health issue or crippling addiction or, a friend dying or whatever it is that levels you to want to change the trajectory. Did I say that right? Why don't
Yeah,
you help me there?
agree. Yeah, you did it
Of
right.
it's just I lost my frame of thought, like trying to pronounce that word.
You're good. I want to add too, like anybody that is listening to this and they're like, well, this sounds pretty amazing, but I don't have addiction. Actually, it's my daughter, or actually it's my son, or it's my husband, or my partner, or what have you.
Oh, you're addicted. You're addicted to dependencies. You're addicted to the
Everything.
yeah,
And
emotion.
yeah, and there's a program that is the same similar steps that is for you.
Yes.
So, you know, whether
And I mean, we can
Al-Anon,
segue from that into emotional addiction, really.
yeah.
Yeah. Because when we all get
It touches
sober,
the family.
yeah,
It touches everybody around you. Very relational. And it doesn't discriminate.
no, it does not discriminate.
And by relational, I mean in a bad way. Like it hits all your relationships. It just kind of weasels itself in. And yeah, it
Yeah.
can have
It's really a symptom of a much bigger problem, you know. Whether it's, you're addicted to the drama triangle and or controlling your, I don't know what they call it in Al-Anon, your person of you, like you're the person that is using, I don't know, they have a term for us in their meetings.
one, I
Yeah,
don't know.
you're addicted one, your family member, whatever.
Like our
You
term for
crazy
them is
person.
loony.
Yeah, that's it. It's not the problem, right? It's just the symptom of a much bigger problem. And we all experience that when we get sober. We're like, but I've been sober, but are you happy? Did you get sober and now you just say, oh, well, I'm just, I've done that. I've been sober and I'm just going through the motions. I'm like, this is it. Like, so this is what sobriety was supposed to look like. How come that person over there is always so happy?
Right.
What about,
I know
what
I
about,
did that for 7 years and didn't even realize I was doing it. Right. Definitely wasn't addressing any of my behaviors, thought processes. So for a long time, it was just like,
you were swirling in probably emotional addiction?
oh, 100%.
Yeah, unconsciously creating drama in your life to repeat the patterns in order for you to get the
And that
cortisol
unconsciousness
up.
would attract things that are real, like relationships that were really bad for me. And I would was attracting all sorts of things into my life that was not good for me because yeah, that software program was really strong.
Well, subconscious mind. Ooh. The reason that I started studying and getting certified in the emotion code, the body code, and the belief code was to help not only myself to knock the dust off all of these patterns that I kept repeating for myself, but to help other people as well. And when I say, knock the dust off of it, it's like we can force our will onto something and it just makes it very hard, right? If we can identify what the limiting belief is and we can identify and bring whatever is subconscious to conscious awareness, it's much easier for us to go ahead and then process it out.
Yeah.
Uh, so, I mean, you can either have a bumpy ride as you're changing your life,
Mhm.
whether you're getting sober or getting off sugar or getting out of an abusive relationship, whatever your healing journey is, it can be either a really bumpy ride. I mean, it's like visceral, it's rough,
Yeah.
or you can open up the possibility that there could be some help out there. There could be a better way. You could grab morning sunlight for 10, 15 minutes in the morning, move your body because, emotions, when they're stuck in your body, it requires movement to move that energy out, whether it's through breath work or TRE shaking or lifting weights, going for a walk, go outside. You can reach out for help too. Talk therapy, traditional talk therapy, or emotion code. You can teach yourself
Well, I
how to
want
do
to say something
that.
about my experience with you because I think it'll be helpful for people who are like, kind of, well, what is that exactly? Because a lot of people have done, some people have done talk therapy for years and years and years. And not that I, it is very
You
important
are one.
for us to talk about it. Yes. And I'm one of those people.
Yeah.
And
And my daughter is too.
yes, and there's a lot of value in it.
Oh
So
yeah.
I know some people are listening in that same boat and they're like, "Oh geez, here's another thing I would be open to doing, but I have to then meet somebody new and share everything all over again." And actually, that's the beauty about emotion code and body code and belief code is the process that Amanda does is not having you actually there's no need to dig up the trauma, explain it, talk about it, go through it. You don't have to go through it.
Your subconscious mind already has all of the information. We
Yes,
just tap into the subconscious mind through energetic muscle testing or applied kinesiology.
yes,
So,
exactly. And then it's able to be let go of.
yeah.
And it's a really beautiful process. And I think that it's such a great way to, if for somebody who has done a lot of therapy throughout their life, I think it's something really, really, really beneficial to explore because some of those programs like never get unearthed in the talk therapy because a human is identifying all those and it takes a long time. It takes years of you sharing your story, how your week went and all the things for the therapist to pick out all of the belief systems that are at play. And that's if we actually share everything. And a lot of times we hold things back. And plus we're
Good
human. We
luck.
forget some of the stuff.
Yeah.
And that's why I love emotion code and belief code and body code so, so much. It's like I get a lot done in a really short amount of time. And it just gives me closure around all of the other work that I did. Not that there wasn't some closure, but it just really puts a nice cap on it all. I hope
Well,
I,
when you experience a genuine shift, it teaches your nervous system a new way of being. And you have the opportunity now to really embody what that lightness feels like, right? When that's a lot of people say, I feel so much lighter
I
after.
always feel lighter after a session. I've
Yeah.
never had any like symptoms. I know sometimes people can get a headache or they might feel tired. I always feel light, like I'm
Like,
floating.
yeah. So when you're floating, what other emotion are you feeling in your body?
I'm feeling joy. I'm feeling like I don't know what, like I
Yeah.
let things go.
Yeah.
Feel
Let
light, free.
go. It's easier for you to exert yourself into a space of surrender.
Oh, 100%.
Yes. And that's what recovery is all about,
Oh yeah.
is having to surrender, having to pause, right? And allow that space to open up for the unknown to come in so that your life can change.
Yeah.
But a lot of us are too busy trying to control everything.
Yeah. And that's the
So,
word surrender is a hang up for people too, because sometimes people think of the word surrender and that like that means that I'm weak. That means I gave up. And actually, like back in the day,
what happens in that space?
what's that?
Grace. You know what happens in that space? That's the word I was looking for. Grace. Grace.
Grace.
Yeah.
Yes. Awesome. Oh, okay. So I was explaining surrender. So surrender, when people used to have like a shootout, like a gun, like each person had the gun, what's that called? A standoff. Or when people were at war with each other. And you know, you think Game of Thrones, you got the blue team over here, whatever, on top of the hill, ready to charge, and then you got the red team or the yellow team or whatever on the other side. And when they threw up their flag to surrender, that meant they wanted to live. It did not mean they were giving up. And a lot of people have this attachment to that word, like it's a weak, I'm a weak, and and it's actually the complete opposite. But somewhere along the way, that word got bad
Well, we're
rep.
supposed to pull ourselves up from our bootstraps, right? That's what we're taught here in America. Like
Yeah.
force it, take control, take charge.
Mhm.
Yeah. And that's really, yeah, letting go requires exertion. Doing nothing requires exertion. What's happening in our bodies when we pause? What's going on there? What is happening when we're pausing and surrendering?
I'm allowing my parasympathetic nervous system to kick on for once because I'm
Is it picking on though? When you're paused and when
when
you're triggered and when you're triggered,
I thought you meant relaxing, not the other way around. No, the other way around, it's I'm in my fight or flight, and that's all I think about. I freeze and I want to run away.
okay. So
That's
do
what
you,
happens when I'm we're saying
yeah.
like
But recently you did pause long enough to say, hey, I need to talk,
yes, exactly.
right? So you made a different decision. Yeah. So
And
what is going on in our,
it took me a long time to be able to be comfortable with that and to actually be able to do that. But now knowing that I have that skill and I can trust in myself to do it, it's very freeing.
that's where we stretch our spirit, is in that space. Our work lies right in that space. Viktor Frankl said it. I think that's
Mm.
his name. Yeah.
In a man's search for meaning.
Yeah. It's your response to that. Because it's in that space that what did we do in the past? We picked up a drink. We picked up our phone. We
Um,
lashed out at our spouse. We ran for the hills. But it's in that space. Yeah. When your nervous system is in full swing. I wrote this morning. When your nervous system is in full swing, having a dirty rave in your head, and you take a moment to stop and do something different while you're swirling in the muck. Yes, that is where we start our healing. Most people say, "Oh, well, I can't sit still long enough in meditation," or I can't do it. That now that they're telling themselves, they're telling their body that they can't do it, and they're reinforcing whatever feeling that they had in their body. But if we can interrupt it right then and there, pause and ask. You paused and called me. I did it the other day. I paused and called my sponsor, or I paused and called a friend. It's because we're covered alcoholics and addicts or recovered, you know, whatever we're recovering from, doesn't mean that we still don't experience these things.
yes, so we can be recovered and still in recovery because we work a program. And this
Yeah.
is the program. We're talking about it. And it's very in line with
You have to be willing to be that uncomfortable, though.
what's that?
You have to be willing to be uncomfortable
Oh yeah.
because toxic positivity is also an addiction,
Yeah.
I think, personally. It's a lot of denial going on there. Yeah.
It's like being, yeah, faking it or yeah. And that's another
Um,
telling sign that there's something that we need to work on. Where there's something underneath there.
we're really such fascinating creatures because I mean, there's the infinite potential available to us, and capable of immense transformation, growth, and healing. And we just have to learn how to align with the frequencies that are already there. It's already there for the taking. The mental clarity, the creativity that
Mhm.
you might feel a block to, the inspiration, the joy, the happiness, the peace. I remember when I first experienced peace for the first time, I was like bored. Like, what is this? I'm so bored.
That's I'm glad you say that because sometimes we're just labeling
Mhm.
the wrong thing. Like you were feeling peace, but you were calling it I'm bored.
Bored, but my nervous system was not comfortable with the space that I had created for myself of nothingness. And I
Mm,
lacked the creativity in the moment to tap into the frequency of gratitude to be like, wow, look how amazing this plant is, or the birds, or what have you, because we're surrounded with such immense, complex beauty. There's no
abundance.
way. I can't remember the last time I've been bored. Honestly, I can't.
Yeah.
I don't experience boredom
Yeah,
anymore.
I don't experience boredom. Uh,
Yeah. So, no, I think you and I both were like running to our meeting today. It's like, okay, let's take five and breathe for a second. Cause I just came off of like 10 other things.
yeah.
Now we have to teach ourselves how to stop again.
Making time for that is like I have to be very conscious to make time for myself to breathe and to calm down. Like, or I won't do it. I'll just go, 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 go. And then, okay, it's bedtime, sleep, wake up, go, 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 go.
Did you say that that might be an addiction to overworking?
It very well could be. And I definitely used to have an addiction to overworking. 100%.
So do I. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like I have more of a balance now. However, I still need to be reminded and need to be mindful to take time for myself. And, that actually didn't come easy. It actually came with my husband being like,
Hey, remember
time.
me?
Yeah. For me. And so sometimes like, so there, right there, that's a perfect example of how a behavioral addiction can wreak havoc on our relationships.
Yeah.
It's not always just a substance we're talking about here.
Yeah. Yeah, it's behaviors as well. So I want you, because you're the quantum health coach in this equation. Talk about what quantum particles are and what they have the ability to do. Like,
Okay, so to me, so anything quantum is at a subatomic level. So, these are things like, and, I'm no quantum physicist or anything like that, but to my understanding, we're talking about electrons and protons and photons and neutrons and all those, and phonons, which are sound, and the photons is light. And these interactions are happening all the time, whether we know it or not. When we hug someone, there's a connection, and our toroidal field that is coming out from ourselves, like 6 feet or whatever it is interacting with that other person. This is why in person, like when we had COVID and we were all isolated and then we went back to in person, we were feeling the energies again. Things were swarming and and we were
interacting.
feeling it. We were
Yeah,
feeling that beautiful.
they were connecting. Yeah.
Yes. And I think another huge thing when it comes to quantum is talking about coherence. Things have to be in coherence. And when we talk about the modern living and the modern world, and then when we talk about our addictions and things like that, that brings in discoherence. And it's impossible to have everything flowing when we have something as big as an addiction happening, or when we're in those feelings that, like you were
The
sharing,
trapped emotions.
are really, really low vibrations. And when they're really, really low vibrations, like that is us. We might not be in our addiction, if you will, but we might be in a shame spiral that's stemming from, being in early recovery and not knowing how to handle things, or not having the right coping skills, or what have you. And so when it comes to the quantum part of recovery, there is a lot of healing that needs to be happened, not only on a, you know, when we look at the triangle of like body, mind, spirit, and then I would also add connection, there is, we need all of those pieces to be in coherence.
Yes.
And because we are in this modern world, we're not in coherence, and we have a lot of things stacked up against us, sorry to say. But like blue light is addictive by design. And so we have all these other things infiltrating us. And then, and then you add on like the ultra processed food that we have in the grocery store. And then you add on everything from the chemical lens that is in our house, bringing in toxins and all that, how that is all bioaccumulating in the body and blah, blah, blah. When we do these simple practices of getting in touch with nature, we bring in the coherence and other
Mm.
things start to fall into place. And it may not think like that, or it may not feel like that rather at the beginning, but things do start to fall in place. Because just something as simple as seeing the sunrise, once you make that a non-negotiable, you're going to start feeling different. That little thing's going to lead to something else. Because we don't just have all these practices overnight.
Right.
Doesn't work
Right.
like that.
Yeah.
And then, we seek other help, like practitioners like you or me or whoever, to help us on our journey. And that, it is just another part of the journey. And this is why I always say you can never label anything good or bad, and everything happens for a reason, because you have no idea what that thing is that you might be labeling as really, really bad that just happened is going to lead you to the next thing. Like this God or this universe or
Just the
whatever,
unknown.
the unknown,
Unknown. Yes.
the unknown, we can't, it's just too complex to be able to
Right.
label it. It's too complex for us to even understand it. And so this is where that trusting the process and having faith is so, so important, not just with our addiction recovery or recovery in general from whatever it might be, from underlying also health issues and whatnot. But once we get to a place where we're really like gonna start looking at our thoughts, behaviors, and all of the things, we can actually, our eyes are then open to being like, oh wow, I actually really do create my reality.
You're basically you're a quantum possibility.
Yes. Yes, and yes, and then all the
We all are.
possibilities
We
that are
are, yeah, we are all a quantum possibility because we live in a world of infinite potential. Yeah,
yes,
and just like a quantum particle can collapse into what it has the ability to collapse into anything, right? So we do too,
yes,
right? We don't
yes.
have to be defined by our past. We don't have to be defined by
We get to
the
rewrite our
addiction.
story.
Yeah. Yeah, we don't have to be defined by, our family of origin if it was, deleterious to our upbringing. We've got our, like you said, our mind and our thoughts. We have to let go of what we think we know, right? And we've got our body, which houses our feelings, and understand the nature of our feelings, understanding the nature of emotions, to learn, that our emotions are just are chemicals secreted by our organs and glands. I was like, that's it, because they feel so big, you know. But wow, okay, so this emotion I'm feeling is just asking. It came to teach me something. I need to step outside of it, become the quantum observer of it, ask what's going on here. What do you need? What do I need to learn from it? Process it, feel it, feel it. Don't numb it, don't suppress it, don't act out. I recently found out that I was having tiny little panic attacks. I had no idea. I
You,
just thought, I had no idea. I'm like, this is just a residual from, all the past trauma or what, which it is, but I just thought I had to live with it because I was so used to it being in my body. No,
hmm,
no, I will be moving that out through breathwork journeys with a colleague of mine. So we got our mind, our thoughts, our body, our feelings, our spirit. We have to clear out the destructive thoughts. We have to clear out the low vibrational emotions so that we can get in touch with our spirit, so that we can have the ability to imagine what we want to create.
yes. And I want to just connect this with the 12 steps. So this is how the promises end up manifesting, is when we do this work. That's where the promises come from. And the reason that they manifest is because 12 steps is in line with the laws of the universe, which is that's a whole nother topic for a different day. But this is how, our payment for all that hard work, basically.
Yeah.
The byproduct of it. I think we covered this so amazingly. You're
I
so
think
brilliant.
we should read the ninth step promises just for fun. Because it will wrap it up nicely.
Okay, go for it.
Okay, I have them.
Awesome.
All right, so where were we?
Okay, we're gonna let
We're
people
gonna
know.
wrap up. Oh, yeah, let's wrap it up, put a nice big bow on it. So
Yes.
we discussed steps 1, 2, and 3 and how, based off of our perspective and our experience, strength, and hope, we have started applying quantum principles to step 1, admitted we were powerless over alcohol and our lives have become unmanageable. Step 2, came to believe that a power greater than ourselves could restore us to sanity. And then step 3, made a fearless, no, that's step 4, made a decision. We made a decision to turn our will and our lives over to the care of God, Spirit, the unknown, as we understand it. So, in doing all of this work, we come to the ninth step promises. When's the last time do they read the promises in meetings where you're at?
Yeah, sometimes, and I have them right here as well.
I just want to touch real quick on how we hack our zone when we're in early recovery. And that's why they say, keep coming back, right? Because we cannot get better in the same environment that we got sick in. And we have an external way to hack our zone, and then we have an internal way to hack our zone. And I heard this from Jason Shurka on a talk that he gave recently.
Okay.
External ways that we hack our zone is through our environment, through the people that we hang out with, the food that we eat, color, music, things like that. And hacking that zone can shift us internally. So keep coming back, right? Go to the meetings, be around the collective, be around everybody else who also has the same goal in mind. Everybody's intention, which is very powerful at a 12-step meeting, is to get and stay sober and to live and to be healthy. So you're tapping into that intention of the collective when you go to meetings. Internal ways to hack your zone, your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs. When we pause, instead of say when we're triggered and we pause, instead of saying like, hey, we're going to grab the sugar, or we're going to grab the phone, or we're going to zone out on TV, or we're going to pick up the drink or whatever, we have the opportunity in that moment to make a completely different decision, exercise courage, align with the frequency of courage, and make a different decision for ourselves. And it is in that space where we can pause and ask our higher power, what is the next right thing for us to do? Maybe I should pick up the phone and call my friend Andeea and be like, hey, let me tell you this crazy thought I had, and I'm going to do it. And maybe you're going to either enable me to be like, yeah, you should go do that. Or you can be like, whoa, 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 you're acting crazy. You're in a triggered state right here. Do something different, make a different choice. Anyway, so you can hacking your zone internally, hacking your zone externally is going to shift your emotional terrain inside your body and create a different experience for you, one that you're probably not even going to recognize. But that's good, because
Yeah.
when you don't recognize it, then you're not repeating a pattern, you're not repeating a program,
Yeah.
and you're allowing the magic of the unknown to
Yeah.
take charge of your life. Yeah.
Yes. And I would even say this is harmonizing. I heard someone say that the other day that people like talk about biohacking and they use this word hack.
Mhm.
And it's actually we're harmonizing everything
Yeah.
because going in the
I
flow.
use that term a lot. Come hack your brain, and I use it
I know
loosely.
I say it as well, but
Really, it is. Like, one thing that I'll do if I'm triggered is I'll splash cold water on my face.
yep.
Stop being crazy. No, that's not true. But it's like a quick interrupt, right?
Yes. Yeah.
So I'll go ahead and read the ninth step promises. And this is one of my favorite ways to end a meeting. When I'm in a meeting and they read this, I love it.
Okay.
All right. The ninth step promises. If we are painstaking about this phase of our development, we will be amazed before we are halfway through. We are going to know a new freedom and a new happiness. We will not regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it. We will comprehend the word serenity and we will know peace. No matter how far down the scale we have gone, we will see how our experience can benefit others. That feeling of uselessness and self-pity will disappear. We will lose interest in selfish things and gain interest in our fellows. Self-seeking will slip away. Our whole attitude and outlook upon life will change. Fear of people and of economic insecurity will leave us. We will intuitively know how to handle situations which used to baffle us. We will suddenly realize that God is doing for us what we could not do for ourselves. Are these extravagant promises? We think not. They are being fulfilled among us, sometimes quickly, sometimes slowly, and they will materialize if we work for them.
Beautiful. You know what's so funny? I went digging for that on the computer and I was opened to it.
Of course you
I
are.
went down and like, oh, it says literally I wrote the promises on both corners of the page and it's highlighted.
Yeah.
I had a feeling I knew what page it was.
And, also, this is a program of attraction, just like, law of attraction.
Yes,
Yeah.
manifesting.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Manifest. And, we're not promoting any particular program. Eh, we're not promoting anything here. We're just sharing our experience in recovery and how we have, or how I have, and how you have. And I appreciate you so deeply, India, for inviting me to have these conversations with you. But, we also have to be mindful of the anonymity of the program and things like that, and how, we're not necessarily promoting anything here. This is all just our experience and how we want to share our journey with you.
Exactly. Beautifully put. Oh, thank you everybody for listening. And thank you, Amanda, for having this conversation with me. This was wonderful. And
Need another tangent?
it'll be to be continued.
Yeah.
Everyone, to be continued. All right, everybody. Drink water.
Drink water.
Bye. Thank you so much for listening. I hope you found value in this information. And if you did, please share it. Another way to support the podcast is to leave a 5-star review. If you want to connect, you can message me on Instagram or email me at ANDEEARAE@outlook.com. And remember, drink water.